Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Peace Mitchell, and I am co founder of Osmompreneur, the Women's Business School, and Women Changing the World Press. I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land that I live and work on, the Mamu people of North Queensland. And I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners right across Australia who are past, present, and emerging leaders. Today is day 3 of the Osmompreneur Online Festival, and we are celebrating the launch of our brand new book, The Women Changing the World. And today we are chatting with some of the authors of this book. So I'd love to begin by introducing Mel James, who's one of the authors of this book. Hi, Mel, how are you?
Hi, Peace. I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the panel. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. I've been waiting for this moment for so long to be launching this book and chatting with all of the authors. But Mel, for people who haven't met you before, I'd love you to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about who you are and the work that you do.
Sure. Okay. I'm Mel. I'm the CEO of a company called Social Care Solutions. It's 12 years young. It's one of 2 of my companies, but it started as an assessment business where we would do foster care assessments. That was the primary, and I say we, it was just me originally. That was just the plan, just me to be an individual sole trader. If someone had said to me 12 years ago that I would have 2 companies, I probably would have laughed a lot and fallen off a chair probably, and had less grey hairs, I think. 12 years on though, so I'm a social worker. And my company is a child protection consultancy company. So it's a little bit unusual. It's not typical for social workers to have private practice unless you're a counsellor. So it's always been a little bit of an innovative way of thinking and a creative business that not a lot of people understood, which is fine. We don't mind talking and sharing what our story looks like. But over time, we've built it to be a consultancy training and assessment company. So we have 60 staff around the country, doing all sorts of work, everything from family group meetings, helping the department connect better with families on that real personal connected level, a little bit more independent and objective, all the way through to parenting assessments, fostering assessments, and then doing big projects like bespoke training, so building training modules for practitioners, by practitioners, led by practitioners, reviewed by practitioners. So it's very frontline, very grounded, and it's beautiful. I love it. I'm very, very lucky, and I'm very, very proud. We're a 100% female team. 100% executive female team as well, which is really unusual in this space. So I'm very, very proud of it. And I've been part of the Osmom crew now for a couple of years. And it's just great. It's lovely to be part of this book and part of this collaboration. So thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks, Mel. Yeah, what an incredible business you've built over the years. It's really wonderful to see the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mel. I'll go to Medea now. Hi, Medea. How are you?
Hi, Peace. Thank you for having me on the panel. It's a wonderful opportunity working with such beautiful women, such experienced entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Well, it's wonderful having you here. But Medea, for people who haven't met you before, I would love you to introduce yourself and tell us about who you are and the work that you do.
Sure. So I'm basically a chartered accountant by profession. I'm originally from Pakistan. I came to Australia in 2014 when I got married to my husband. My parents and my grandparents, everyone is a chartered accountant. That is why, accountancy and numbers run in the family. I'm a number cruncher. When I came here, I had already done my chartered accountancy and everything. And me and my husband, we started off an accounting firm by the name of Calculators. Within a span of 6 years, we have gone from a small garage. We used to work from a small garage, and now we've got 10 offices now. So I know the book mentions 8, but since I've written my chapter, since from that time to now, we've already launched 2 more offices. So now we have moved on to 10 offices. We basically provide taxation, bookkeeping, accountancy services, advisory, companies, registrations, and all of those things. I have got clients, who are starting from people who just get Centrelink payments, or people who have who work in factories, to factory owners, construction businesses, NDIS businesses, pharmacies, and lots of businesses. Apart from that, I'm also the co-director of a disability support company called Cara Shaw. We have got an umbrella of organizations under this group. So there's Cara Shaw and Care Plan Management. In this organization, we are basically providing supported independent living, SIL, commonly known as SIL, SDA, which is specialized disability accommodation, respite services, to people with disability, individual support, and all of those as well. So we are providing all these supports to people with disability, and we are a registered NDIS provider, and we've got offices and houses available for people with disability in South Australia, but not just in Adelaide, in remote areas like Port Augusta, Ururu, Port Pirie, Mount Gambier. So all of the countryside as well, where there's very less demand. Very less supply. So lots of demand, but very less supply. So we're going there as well, just to focus on our corporate social responsibility and give back to the community.
That's beautiful. And congratulations on 10 centres now.
Thank you.
Since we finished writing our chapters, that's pretty amazing.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Medea. We'll go to Sally now. Hi, Sally. How are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me here. This is very exciting.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you here, Sally. And Sally, for people who haven't met you before, I'd love you to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about the work that you do.
Okay, perfect. So I call myself an accidental business owner. So I've always been involved with the business world. Mum and dad were in small business. My husband's been in small business. But I wasn't in that world. I was in health and doing some other things. And then an opportunity came along to purchase a dance studio. And it was a small beginning. It was a very small business to start. And it has just grown exponentially. I told my husband it's not going to interfere with our life. It's just going to be a very small enterprise. 5 minutes later, working 60 hours a week plus. So we've got multiple studios. We're opening to a new location next year as well. We've got a retail outlet, and we've got probably the fastest growing part of our business now is our vocational training. So we've had that now, it's going on 3 years, and it's grown more than 100% each year. So it's a big thing for our students, the vocational training, and for our area. So very exciting times for us.
That's fantastic. And I love the vocational training, and you've got so many centres. I'm sure that then it provides employment opportunities for some of the graduates as well.
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping we can grow our next generation of teachers from our own students. This is very exciting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Congratulations. Thank you, Sally. We'll go to Emma now. Hey, Emma, how are you?
Hello, good to be here. Thank you so much for hosting, Peace.
Oh, you're welcome. Emma, for people who haven't met you before, I'd love you to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you and the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. My career spans multiple industries, definitely starting in the area of sports and sports management, all the way through to learning and development, into corporate, and eventually found my passion in property. So I think one of the key things that's common throughout my career is that this real desire to be able to help other people thrive. And in turn, my career has been able to really grow as a result of it. So I think I have a strong sense of being able to want to give back wherever I am and whatever position I'm in within my career, because so many people have contributed to my success. So that started off very small. And now with my property business, I'm able to really leverage the talents and expertise of not only myself, but also my team, to be able to leverage and create even bigger waves in the form of the charities that we support. One of those key charities is building houses in Cambodia and gifting them to the poorest of the poor, all the way through to really raising funds to build multiple schools in the last few years. So that's really exciting. We've been able to take it to the next level, and I think what I really managed to learn is being able to connect the people that need help with the people that can help. And so I think, yeah, being in a position to have my business and be able to leverage to that extent is really, really powerful.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it must be so rewarding to be able to help those people and give them homes and schools as well. It's incredible.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that's what I've centered my chapter on, because we're always here for a fair go. We like to give people a fair go. A fair go for people in Cambodia are the simple things like water, shelter, and safety. My chapter also extends into the area of girls. Being the mother of a teenage daughter, there's where she's growing up in a very different environment to what I did. And if I think of how my mother and what she had to contend with was different again. So it does stem into some of my work locally as well, around self-defense, and one of the key influences in my life that's made a difference. So yeah, it's really about being able to give back to those communities, because I know that if I support them, the ripple effect and what they can do is even greater.
Yeah, it's powerful. And, I particularly love that you are investing in education through building schools. That's really, really amazing. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a little village where we had contributed a few houses, and the charity is called Global Village Housing. So I love that it's Australian ingenuity, really supporting Cambodians to help Cambodians. And the operations manager at the time said that the school is in desperate need of support. And the photos that she sent were just heartbreaking. It was barely a shack. So the project started from there, and I collaborated with 3 other friends in Australia, and we pretty much just created a message to be able to bring our community here together. And we built the school, but we also were able to provide some wages for the teachers. We provided learning materials. We created school packs that people could sponsor. So the kids were, for the very first time in their lives, having something new. So it was their shoes, their uniforms, their backpacks, and the materials. So every year we try and top that up. And so that's an ongoing project, and we try to keep in touch with them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So incredible. And yeah, the ripple effect of that, of providing quality education for these kids, that's generational change that can happen.
Absolutely. And it's their only way out of poverty, especially for girls, because a lot of them are expected to look after younger siblings, so they don't go to school, or once they start to menstruate, then there's no toilet, so they have no means of looking after themselves. So there's a lot of other factors that kind of stem off just that school or just the well that we built. There are a lot of things that will change.
And so even things like putting in, quality bathroom facilities makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And in your chapter, you also talk about your daughter and wanting to protect her, having that, that inner instinct of like, how can I keep her safe? Can you tell us about that?
I surprised myself. I didn't think I would see her differently, especially since I have a son as well. But I just felt this urge that when I found out I was having a daughter, that I felt like I needed to protect her. So thinking back, it's really about how different the world will treat her being female. And not to say that everyone thinks that way, but potentially she will come across barriers that perhaps my son might not. So it was really about showing her that we can be strong, but be vulnerable. We can be compassionate, but we can be leaders. So for me, it was just, I guess, a little bit of responsibility to show her that she can be all of those things.
Yeah, I love that. And I think as mothers of girls, we've got this responsibility to be a role model for them of what's possible, and to nurture and encourage them to follow their dreams and live up to their potential, and not be afraid to shine their light.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was very fortunate. Our last trip to Cambodia, Cara actually came with me. She did a kids project and she raised the money that year. So I was very, very lucky that those 2 passions actually collided in 2019.
Yeah, that's really special, and something I'm sure she'll always remember.
Yes, she wants to go back. Not that we're going anywhere at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure she will. No, that's beautiful. Thank you, Emma. Medea, I might go to you now. You were saying that generations of your family have been accountants. The numbers are in your blood. Tell me about that. Tell me about, your grandparents were accountants, your husband's an accountant.
Yep. So in Pakistan, there is a common perception that women are not too educated, generally just housewives. But that's what I've discussed in my story, that the perception that the general world has about, the Asian countries, it's a little different than what's happening now, So my grandparents, my grandfather, he was an accountant, and he was, he used to be in India before, and then there was this partition of both countries, India and Pakistan. So he moved, and then he had two daughters and a son, all accountants again. So my mother is a master's in child psychology and home economics. So she used to take care of, everything inside the house. And she used to teach me, actually, because she's educated. My father was also an accountant. And, along with ABC, he used to tell us about debit and credit as well. So we had a beautiful relationship with our father also.
Oh, I think Medea's internet has frozen. We've lost her. We'll have to come back to you, Medea. Mel, I'd love to go to you now. Mel, tell us about your chapter. Tell us about your story and what you wrote.
Sure. I love to talk. And so when I was typing at first, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm going to have nothing important to say. And my business is such an unusual business. I think I discovered that at one of the first Entrepreneur conferences I went to many, many moons ago, that everyone's talking about sales and web presence, and I was going, oh, child protection consultancy, it doesn't fit. But it was actually quite an eye-opening experience, that particular conference, because it did start me going, well, actually, hang on. No, this is a business. So my whole chapter was kind of focused on this concept of accidental entrepreneurship as well, that idea that I didn't plan to own a business, didn't plan to own more than one, and trying to find how to wear both hats. Because being a social worker, at my core, I'm about social justice and being truly present with people, walking alongside of them, not being the expert, or acknowledging that power in being that potentially in a role as a professional that you do have a certain amount of power, but we're meant to walk alongside of. So to suddenly catapult yourself into owning a business, you're in a position of power. CEO gives you a title of power, even if there isn't power behind it, it gives you perceived power. So trying to kind of come to some sort of molding of those two hats. How do I wear both? And I suppose my story is about recognizing that actually they're one and the same. I can be a social worker and be a CEO and an entrepreneur and own multiple businesses that are for purpose, for profit. We don't strive to make excessive amounts of profit. That's not what it's about. We strive to have exceptional outcomes for children, young people in care. And I suppose, my chapter is about even my idea of what that looks like. So, becoming a social worker, I had multiple degrees when I left uni. I thought I was the bee's knees. I thought I knew lots about lots. And then being schooled by the kids I worked with, being schooled by 14-year-olds who were saying, you're 24. What would you know? You're no mum. I'm going, oh, hang on, I've got degrees. Oh, no, that means nothing. They're just paper. Oh, okay, great. So like being schooled by children and by their parents, going through significant intergenerational trauma, being able to have some humility around that, and then bringing that back to my practice here in Australia because I was overseas, and recognizing that anyone can take this opportunity. Anyone can take, if you find a gap in a market, it doesn't really matter what the market looks like. If you have an idea, if you have innovation, if you have a solution to the problem of your customers, you can create your own company. It's a really exciting, that's what I wanted to put forward in my chapter, that was about even random little social workers can become CEOs, basically.
Oh, it's an incredible story, Mel. And I think, there's so much that you've learned over your time. Like, what have been some of the lessons from when you started out in those early days at 24 to now? It's been such a journey.
Yeah, it has been. It's been really interesting. I'd like to think I've learnt to listen a bit more. It's funny because some of my staff will say, like, might say something to me and they'll go, I know you're thinking something, but you don't actually say it yet. I'm like, yeah, just sit, take a bit of time, let it process. It's not my natural personality trait. My personality trait is, right, there's a problem, I've just got to jump in and fix it. So I've learned, I'd like to think, just to sit back and just let it ruminate for a little bit and see what comes of it, because people have their own solutions to their own problems often. And amazing innovation can happen when you are quiet and you just wait to see what other people bring to the table. So that's been a learning. And the other one has been, I really saw my company, it stopped being just a business and became a company in all sense, legal and psychological sense for me, when I started leaning on other specialists. So I got a financial manager, I got a business advisor, I got a business mentor, I had a customer service expert. I went and actually sought out people, got to spend money to make money, that kind of concept. I was at a crossroads probably about 5 years ago, where I was like, I don't know whether, my kids are getting to that point where I probably could go back into the workforce Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Maybe I do close my company. I'll just meet with these people and they were all women. They're all women who were owning their own companies, and they were so inspiring and so excited and full of ideas that I hadn't thought of. And it was their specialty that made me recognize I don't actually have to know everything. I don't know everything, and I won't ever know everything, but there's always going to be somebody out there who'll help me with it. So that's been an eye-opener and a massive learning for the journey. And that I would say to anybody that wants to start a company, don't try and do it on your own. If you're a finance specialist, great. But if you want to do marketing, get a marketing specialist to either capacity build and help you learn that skill, or do it for you, outsourcing, and that has been absolute success point for us, that we've got a marketing manager on our team, we've got a finance manager on our team, and those specialty services have really just took us to another level. It's just raised the bar for us.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that, because when people start out in business, it's just them and they have to wear all the hats and they have to do everything. And there's this point they get to where they actually cannot keep wearing all the hats and doing all the things. And they have to learn to do the opposite, to let go of control and micromanaging. And they have to learn the art of trusting others to do things, even though they won't do it the same way that they would. But sometimes they'll do it better than they would. But until you have the ability to let go and trust someone else, you'll never know that that's possible.
And you're really holding yourself back, I think, if you don't find those ones to trust. And look, I've definitely entrusted things from my team to the wrong people over time, and that's great learning as well. I mean, it's a horrible experience, but it's a great learning to go, oh, my rose-colored glasses probably weren't very helpful at that point. But again, it just comes back to your processes, putting in really healthy processes to make sure you support people to move on when they need to move on, and connecting with more appropriate or more aligned, value aligned. I think that's another big one, that everyone that works on my team and everyone I outsource to, even my tech people, they are all aligned with my values as a practitioner, but also as a company owner. And that makes things so much easier. When there's problems or issues, you just come back to your values, and that's how you sort it out.
Yeah, I love that advice. It's really, it's all about that, isn't it? You have to work with people who align with your values, and it's something that you can feel in your heart. It's your intuition, and that connection is something really special. And it's not something that you'll get with everyone. Not everybody gets it. Not everyone shares those values.
Yeah, it's true. Even our finance team, my finance manager grew up in a household that fostered. So while she's not a foster carer now herself, she gets it. She understands that safeguarding children and young people is my number one priority, and always will be. It's above book sales, it's above marketing, it's above masterclasses online, it's above everything I do. It is about coming back to children and young people and their safety. And we're pretty well known for, we like to say we're not yes women. It's not that concept of being a yes man. We're not. Agencies know if they come to us for pieces of work, they might sometimes get a no, or they'll get a, this isn't going to work for you, or this particular carer isn't suitable, or this parent's not suitable, and they might not want to hear that, but that's what they get from us. And I think that level of integrity, everybody on the team has that, and they're passionate about it. And so even when you've got a finance manager who normally may not know anything about our system or our sector, because she was a family member and has 27 foster siblings. She gets it. She gets how important every decision is, and why it's hard for me to make decisions sometimes, because I'm going, weighing it up. So yeah, and that's across the board. Even my admin team, they have understanding of working in schools and understanding how to protect children in schools, because they've done that before. So they then are an admin worker with me, but they just get it. They understand professional boundaries and confidentiality and privacy and all those things that are so critical to my company being successful. And I don't mean successful in profit, I mean successful in general and doing good work. But because we align with those beautiful values together, it actually makes things so much more easy for us.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And let's talk about children and young people. It's something you're so passionate about. I guess you've seen some hard things over the time, but you've also had some really positive outcomes and really made a difference for kids.
I'd like to think, like, when we look at our numbers, I go back and say we've probably done up to 10,000 assessments over the last 12 years. And that means we're affecting the lives of tens of thousands of children. And that's really powerful for us. We do see some pretty horrible things. It's the nature of child protection. I was literally talking with someone yesterday about vicarious trauma humour, that we kind of laugh about some of the worst things because otherwise we won't survive. But we have a really great support network in our team. We have a very strong structure of supervision and mentoring in our team, so that our staff can be at the front line dealing with very high complex cases. We've got a lot of cases that we've worked with over the years that we call them the Curry Mail test. They make it to the media and they're horrific. But they make it to the media. The ones that don't make it to the media are those really empowering, simple, quiet stories of mums and dads who've had no support, who've had no one to show them how to be a mum, no one to show them how to care for a child, and then they've had their child removed, and it's been horrific and awful. And then we've seen them work with foster carers to learn how to be better parents and how to care for kids. We've seen them work with agencies, they've worked with us, they've worked with lots of different people, and they've got their kids back. Those ones never make the media, but I've got goosebumps. Every time we have those stories, they are so powerful, because we know we're empowering parents and they're empowering themselves to actually get their lives and their kids' lives back. But ultimately, at the moment, it's a really horrible time in general. The pandemic, we've got a silent pandemic happening behind the pandemic, which is the amount of children who are requiring child protection services across the country. It's phenomenal, not like anything I've ever seen. And we have more children under the age of 12 in residential services across the country than we've ever seen before. We've got 2-year-olds who we can't place in foster care, which is unheard of. So it's a really dire kind of time. And that's why we're even more passionate about doing the work we do, and we're extending our service delivery and our service catalogue to make sure we're helping brand new workers out of uni who don't know how to do casework, because it doesn't look anything like what it looks like at uni. So we're trying to kind of build up skills and build some resilience and help people understand risk, because that's what we live with. That's what we live and breathe at our company, managing risk and assessing risk. So, yes, sorry, I digress, Keith, but yeah, there's heavy stuff out there. All those stories in the media, they're pretty hard to handle, but you balance them with the really great ones that they don't make the media, but they're pretty powerful and they keep you sane, those ones.
Yeah. Incredible stories about, young parents who are then learning how to care for their children and then get their kids back.
Yeah, it's
do a great job. Like that's really powerful. And then that's generational change that you start seeing happening. Yeah. Incredible, Mel. Thank you so much. Sally, I'd love to go to you now. Tell us about your chapter, what you wrote about.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I probably resonate a lot with Mel's story then. So it's probably not traditional for dance teachers to see themselves as entrepreneurs. They're more artists. But I have come from a completely different place for my business, and I've decided to do things that other studios don't. So I'm quite an ethos-based business. We're very inclusive. We have like Parkinson's classes over 55s. We have special needs. Like we're just really different to the studio next door. And in my mind, that set us up to be quite small and boutique, and that we would not really grow and it wouldn't be a big thing. And it's turned out to be quite the opposite. I didn't realise how many people were looking for the things that we were offering. And I had come from a place of, I'm a mum, and I've seen school-based activities done really poorly, and I've seen them done really well. And I was just imagining, where do I want my kids to be after school? What sort of people do I want them around? How do I want them to grow and learn? So my business and my chapter is all about why I do things differently and how I do things differently. So I'm talking about like the power of 5 minutes and giving all of my time, infusing it with something. Like, I'm not going to just waste it all, but I'm going to give it real power and purpose. I'm talking about things like how I believe in excellence and kindness, and just all of the things that I hold on to the point of I would take these things and forsake money. And that's what I thought I would do with my business, basing it around these core pillars. But it turns out that that's really attractive to people, and it's really attractive to consumers. And I think people see through the fog that there are businesses out there that are run differently, and they're quite attracted to that. So I guess my chapter is like a open the heart and what is really in there, and how do I really run my life. So it was kind of scary to be that vulnerable and put all that stuff down in paper, because I think it's the things that I don't normally talk about. So yeah, it was a bit of fun.
Yeah. So you talked about inclusion. Why is inclusion so important to you?
Well, traditionally dance is for little girls or really skinny teenagers who are doing elite dancing. It's not for people who are a bit different. It's not for older people. It's not for chubby people. It's only for this set of people are the only ones who can dance in traditional schools. But there's so much research about the mental, the physical, the social, the cognitive benefits of dance. And those benefits are the things that completely interact with the Parkinson's and even the aging, and those things like balance, like remembering those sequences, like working on the flexibility, the big motor skills, the fine motor skills. All of those things are so important for our mind as we age, for our body as we age. And we also have classes for really tiny ones. So we take students from 18 months, and it's a really fun time for the carers or mum and the little ones to interact. So I think that it's really good to be anti-cultural sometimes, to swim against the tide and to be, this is for everyone. There's so much research. Let's just open the doors up, run it a different way, and see who wants to come and join us. So that's how we've done our studios.
And you said that you came from a health background, is that?
Yeah, so I was working, I'd had dance in my life always, and I'd gone in and out of dance. So I went down to Melbourne to the Australian Conservatoire and did my teacher training down there. But then I went into Queensland Health and did a long stint with Queensland Health as executive support and that sort of thing. So, and then I went into private sector and learnt from some incredible businesswomen. So I think every little deviation to my journey, I have collected things along the way that's led me to building what I've got now. I think I needed to stop along those spots and pick up those things so that I was able to run a really holistic business.
Yeah, absolutely. And are your parents entrepreneurs as well?
Well, when I was younger, they had their own business when I was very young, and then they did other things, and mum was in health as well. She now works in my business, so I keep everybody involved. But yeah, both mum and dad were in business, and my husband's got a big business as well. So it's a busy time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Awesome. And I love that your mum's in the business with you.
Yeah, it's really fun having family involved.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Sally. Medea, I'll come back to you. We lost you there, but you're back now.
Technology, we're all dependent on technology. And of course, although I'm running a huge business, but I've got these 2 kids and my life revolves around them. You might see in the background, I'm in the car because I have to pick my son up. So yeah, it's just the technology. But yeah, I think that's what all us women are, that's what we are doing. We are best at multitasking. And that's basically what I was talking about initially also. On during this way, along this way that, I set up this business, and the calculators and Cara Shaw were born. I gave birth to my babies as well. And I've also discussed in my story how I lost two of my babies along the way, and then how I clawed up my way, from that zone of depression, but to still keep going and, um, focus on my kids as well as the business support. My husband's support was always there with me. And I did not have family here. I came alone with my husband, so there have been really difficult times as well. But now, as Sally mentioned as well, my mom is with me as well now. She's moved to Australia. She takes care of the kids, and it's a beautiful country, such a great experience. The country is giving to us, and we are trying to make sure we give back as much as we can also. And just like all the wonderful women here, running a business along with kids, it's very difficult. It takes a lot of you. You get consumed in the whole process, but I think that's how we have been born. Women have got that strength. And I get to see so many women, who have just been housewives, highly qualified, but they left their jobs and everything for the kids. And then, they come to me and they say, now we want to do something. And I help them set up the business. And it's such a fulfilling feeling when I see my clients, becoming entrepreneurs from just one sole trader to huge organizations and running the business so well. So apart from being an accountant, that feeling, that women are doing so well as entrepreneurs, it's really fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is difficult raising kids and growing such a big business. I mean, you've got 10 locations now. You've got Cara Shaw as well. There's so many things that you're doing and balancing motherhood amongst all of that as well.
Yeah. So it is quite tough, the day doesn't end till the night. You come back from work, but then, my son has to get his hot words done and everything. And then he has his stories, this person doesn't want to be my friend, and this happened, and I got a bruise, and all of those things, so you have to go with that also. But then you've got the business and things to run as well. I remember that, when my daughter was born, it was the peak of tax season, and I had 28 appointments on the day. But, my daughter decided to come out early. So, but then I did not have any option but to ask my husband to bring the laptop to the hospital. And, my daughter was there, but I was reviewing the tax returns at that time, So, but I enjoyed that, because we can do everything. We have got that capacity to do things together. And that's what I've mentioned in my story as well, that adversity is not going to discriminate. Anything can happen with anyone. But you just got to be strong and take that leap of faith.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You can't let things hold you back. You have to keep going. Absolutely.
Of course. Yeah.
I'd love to hear more about Cara Shaw. Tell me about what was the inspiration for doing this. It sounds like an incredible project.
Yeah. So, Peace, what's happening in Australia is NDIS is a pretty new field. Not many qualified professionals have organizations who are registered with NDIS. NDIS is basically a National Disability Insurance Scheme. And as an accountant, what happened with me was that I got lots of clients, lots of providers who were already registered with NDIS, and I got I got to see what they were doing. Then I was a plan manager as well. Plan managers are basically accountants who take care of clients, NDIS participants' plans. So we, make sure we send invoices out and get providers paid and all. And I could see that the people with disability, they didn't know how to make use of their plans. Like, people have got the funds, but they're not aware of how to utilize them, especially from the multicultural environment. People were not aware as to how to utilize the plan such that, their life can become functional. And they can live as normally as they can. Apart from that, we also saw that the specialized disability accommodation, there is severe lack of specialized disability accommodation, especially in South Australia. In other states, it's still growing, but in South Australia, there's not much investment around that. And people with disability, they are living with, home shelters, and many people are still homeless, living in rehabilitation centers since years now, and that's not going to bring much improvement in their lives. A person with disability, if they're living as normal as any other person in a house, with a housemate who they find, who they think it's interesting, and they can spend time with them, then their life will become more functional and happier. And that's what our target was. We are focusing on providing that accommodation. We are building new houses which are specialized and tailored to the needs of people with disability. So, vast corridors, the kitchens and the counters, they are adjustable. So even if someone is on a wheelchair, they can pull up or down their counters, and they can cook themselves. There are ramps and things on the toilets. We also try to ensure that, if there's a birthday of a person with disability, he doesn't have anyone, all our team just goes there and we celebrate their birthdays together. And then we're just trying to engage them, and as one of the members here was talking about as well, just ensure inclusion. They're also part of our community, so want to make sure they feel as included as we can. And basically, calculators, we've got such a huge client base now, so we just wanted to give back to the community in one way or the other, and help support the people with disability as well.
Oh, I love that. I love that you're giving back in this way. It's beautiful, and providing the accommodation and giving those people that level of independence. It's really amazing.
Yeah. And not much people know that this is actually all funded by the National Disability Insurance Scheme. So there are so many people who don't even know that they are eligible for NDIS. And it's a very simple process. You just need to get some reports from occupational therapists and some evidence. And the government is offering that, but there's not much awareness as to whether you are eligible or not, So that's what we're trying as well. We have launched an awareness program also, where we're going to schools and we're telling kids, even with speech therapy or even with occupational therapy, it's a small thing. There are many types of disabilities which cannot be seen, So and disability, being disabled is a taboo, it's considered that no, you cannot use that word, but it's okay, to be differently abled. And we need to make sure that we include all the people, we provide the best supports possible to them as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Wonderful. So I'd like to just check in with each of our panelists now and ask you, what advice would you give to somebody who is thinking about making a difference, changing the world, doing their part in some small way? So we might go to you, Mel. What advice would you have for somebody who was thinking about following their calling to make a difference in the world?
I'm trying to think of something like really smart and inspirational to say. I'm like, oh no, cold and flu tablets probably stop me from being that creative. I would say find your value base, figure out what actually is important to you, and make all your decisions based on that. Because anytime I've deviated and gone, oh, maybe we could do that kind of service, and sat there. We call it intuition or gut instinct, or as a social worker, I call it practice wisdom. You have to learn to trust it. We are taught from a very young age to ignore that in society, especially in Western culture, and we shouldn't. We should embrace it because it tells us something. Those butterflies or that feeling tells us something. So I think anytime I've deviated away from my values, my instinct has gone, oh, what are you doing? So that would be my hot tip. Stick with your values, figure out what they are, and make sure everything you do and everyone you work with aligns with them.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Mel.
No worries.
Sally, how about you? What advice would you have for somebody thinking about changing the world in their own way?
Yeah, I think as women, we tend to look at each other and see that that person beside me is smarter. They've got more to offer. I'm going to sit back. I've got nothing to offer. There's nothing for me to do. So I think everyone just needs to look and see, what have you got in your hands? What have you experienced? What skills have you got? Use that, even if you feel like it's way smaller than anybody else's. If you use what you've got in your hands and do your absolute best with it, there's no telling what difference that's going to make in someone else's life. So just don't compare yourself to others. Find what you've got and go with that.
Oh, I love that. I think every single one of us has something that we can do, something to contribute, and ways that we can give back. And we shouldn't compare ourselves to others because we're all unique and special and have our own gifts. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Sally. Emma, hello. What advice would you have for somebody who was thinking about going for it and making a difference in the world?
Yeah, look, I always think back to what my mum used to say when we were younger, and she'd always say, if I can, I will. So I'm of the thinking that if you see that something needs to change, you really just have to care enough to do something about it. Because I think sometimes we see things, we think, oh yeah, it'd be nicer if that happened. But if nobody takes action, nothing changes. So no matter how big or small that action might be, it will still create some form of change, even if only for the person that received it.
Yeah, I love that. If I can, I will. Yeah, such great advice. And we can all make a difference by, even small changes can make a big difference and a ripple effect. And I think it's up to all of us to play our part in changing the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes that change is just the way that we think individually. And it's incredible how much it actually affects and projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Emma. Medea, how about you? What advice would you have for somebody else who is wanting to change the world in their own way?
Tell all the women, do not let anyone take you for granted. We need to make sure we are really strong. Women are very strong-headed. So you need to make sure that you need to understand that we can multitask. We can do whatever we want to do. So it doesn't mean that if you're running a business, your kids will be neglected, or if you're taking care of kids full time, you cannot work, So you need to make sure that you take that leap of faith. You have your strength, and you ensure that whatever your dreams are, you need to fulfill those as well. And along with that, of course, you need to take care of family also. Family is very important, but you can grow your career, you can become an entrepreneur, you can fly high as well, because you have the strength. We can do that. So we definitely need to ensure that we take just that one step. That step that we want to take and we're getting scared to take that one step, that may be just that one step, You might just have to take that one step and that's it. So that's what I want as a takeaway for all my readers.
Yeah, just take that step and let go of the fear.
Of course.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much to each of our authors for joining us on the panel today. It has just been so wonderful talking with you, and I encourage everybody to grab a copy of our new book, The Women Changing the World. This book is filled with incredible stories from incredible women doing big things and small things in the world, and so inspiring. And yeah, I hope it inspires everyone out there to make a difference and do what they can to make the world a better place. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll see you again soon. Bye.
Thank you.